Hope you're having a good day, good evening, good night, whatever it is, whatever time it is where you are. Hopefully it's happy, peaceful, prosperous, and healthy wherever you are. And I hope you're doing good things, whatever you're doing. And if you're wondering why I keep looking around and over my shoulder, well, a lot of that has to do with the current context that I'm in, which is to say, I'm in a place that's getting a lot of complaint cylinders lately. And I mean a lot because of our lovely, not lovely, terribly, terribly, terrible, angry neighbors to the north. And yeah, they do tend to interfere with things like my trading because, yeah, unfortunately, when those things go off, I have more important priorities, right? When those complaint cylinders come firing at us. So, as I was looking over the Bitcoin charts, I'm constantly being interrupted today by all those incoming ordinances. Um, I noticed, of course, as you should too if you trade the BEPS, that the VRE of Bitcoin showed today that there is a very tight central daily range of the VRE. I think if I remember correctly, it's around 0.13% of the asset's value, which is uh, relatively very tight. And what that means is that since it is that tight, it is a trending day, right? In all probabilities, and certainly on very low time frames, we've obviously seen a bunch of trending moves. Of course, if you zoom out, it looks like a pretty flat day, right? But if you zoom into the low time frames, you can see there were plenty of little scalpable trending moves. And if you happen to have the fortune, the good fortune of being in a place where you could trade without interruption due to the insanities of warfare, well, then there were a lot of good moves to catch today. Like that simple, really. So, what does that mean? Well, that means that right now Bitcoin is setting up for potentially more trending moves, especially as the CME markets are about to open, as it is a Sunday, right? They open on the Bitcoin futures market open on the CMEs on the Sunday afternoon, whatever. And briefly, of course, but whatever, they're open long enough to be some kind of, that little bit of traditional market action happening on a Sunday for folks who actually use that. Personally, I've said many times, I personally think it's quite an overblown and highly overweighed market to be monitoring at all when it comes to Bitcoin. But, I know a lot of traditional investors and people who do TA, voodoo TA or traditional TA, they look to it as some kind of bellwether because it's a traditional market that trades in Bitcoin futures. So, there's that. But mostly, there's just the fact that there's a trending day. So it's set up for potentially, there's a little probability of a nice trending move before the end of the Bitcoin day. And when the new day opens up, it will, of course, open up the new weekly candle. And it'll close off this weekly candle, and we'll see just exactly how it closed. And like I said at the beginning of this week, if the asset manages to stay above the third standard deviation band to the downside of the 3012 RMLR with the correlation look back length of 12 as opposed to 30, which is the norm, is 30. But if you put it on 12 for super high time frames like, well, even the daily, but especially the weekly or higher, well, then you can see that it will confirm that there's probably, very probably, incredibly highly probably, a mean reversion in progress. And what that means is that the probability is that it will actually complete that mean reversion before it hits that third band to the downside again. Now, is it possible that it skips 2 weeks and then hits it again after a third week? Yeah, it's possible. Is it possible that it does it again after 4 or 5 weeks? Anything's possible, right? There's always probabilities. But the probabilities are incredibly small that it will do that, especially given that it already did effectively do that over the summer when it last hit that RMLR band, that third standard deviation band to the downside of the RMLR. Right? It did that, had several weeks of an outlier. Several weeks of not hitting it, and then touched it again for several more weeks, for a number more weeks, really. So it skipped like one candle more than the norm of like 2 candles, and then it hit it again. So yeah, it's possible that it skips 3 weeks and then hits it again. It's just incredibly rare. And for that to happen twice in a row is even more rare. So if it does not hit that band today, and currently the last I looked, that band is down somewhere between 60 and 61K, well, then it seems as though mean reversion will indeed be in progress. And what does that mean? Well, for all practical purposes, it means the asset is likely to go and hit that 3012 RMLR at some point in the coming weeks and months. And currently, that RMLR is somewhere at around 100 and whatever thousand, slightly above 100K. It is coming down over the next couple weeks or so, for another like 2-3 weeks maybe, before moving back up again for another week or two, and then coming back down and kind of zigzagging across the way through like May of 2025. And the whole time, for now, it seems to be forecast to be in the high 90s or 110, 115 area. I mean, obviously those lines repaint, in terms of their numbers, but the general direction being what it is indicates that it's generally going to be maintaining itself very nicely in that area, in that range somewhere between probably, I would say worst case, if it dumps hard over the next couple of weeks, even without touching those bands, right? It probably won't bring that RMLR band down much more than like down to 85 or 80K at the very minimum. And probably we're more likely to see the RMLR remain at or above 95K and maybe south of 120 until around May of 2025. So by then, if we have a mean reversion completion, that's roughly the area at the moment on the very high time frame where we'll be seeing that mean reversion happen. Now, that doesn't mean that we're only going to see the price go up until then. Right? It could certainly have down weeks, and obviously on lower time frames, it'll have a lot of zigzags up and down, right? On the daily time frames, on the 4-hour, on the 90-minute, on the 33, and so on and so forth. There are constantly distributions and mean reversions on every single time frame. So don't get cocky. Don't just think, because we cleared the woods now and mean reversion's in progress, that's it, to the moon, Alice. No, not necessarily. It may be a while until we complete that mean reversion. So bear that in mind. And yeah, that should do it for now. All right, happy trading. See you guys.